Felicity. I'm a satisfaction coach and yoga teacher who is obsessed with empowering disillusioned people to live a life that they don't need to escape from. And I'm here to talk to you today about one of my pillars. I haven't decided whether to call them pillars. Roads. I quite like the visualisation of a 4-lane motorway. And there's 4 lanes. And you always have to be in one or the other. But they're all travelling at the same time. So think of one of my lanes. And this is about finding your focus. This is what I wanted to talk to you about this week. So tell me what you think about routine. Tell me how you feel, or think about how you feel when someone talks to you about routine. A lot of people think that this is really boring, that routines, that boring drudgery of every day, the daily routine. But for me, this is where the magic of life happens. This is where things can happen. This is a foundation for change. And it's a foundation of real self-care as well. So I'm going to tell you 3 benefits and 3 tips to having good structure in your life. Now, some people will feel that structure, again, is a word that doesn't sit well with them. Structure sometimes feels quite restrictive. Some people view structure as being like a cage. But I don't see structure as a cage. It's not an external thing, it's an internal thing. So your skeleton is a structure. And I feel that having good routine is like having a skeleton. Imagine if you didn't have a skeleton. You'd just be a blob on the floor. You'd just be a bleh. And you wouldn't be able to move very far. It would take a lot of effort, a lot of strength to be able to move without having bones in your body. So I always feel that my routines are like my skeleton. And then I can put the flesh of my life, hang that, it gives me something to hang everything else off. If I don't have very good routines, if my routines go out the window for whatever reason, I feel like a jellyfish that's just a bit washed up on the shore. Can't really do anything, just kind of stuck there. Jellyfish work well in water because water has a structure. Water provides the structure for them to move about in. But on the shore, they don't have that. So think more skeleton and less jellyfish. So there's 2 parts really to this. There's routines and there's planning. Now a routine is a sequence of habits. So when we put lots of good, nourishing habits together, we have our morning routine. We have our evening sleep routine. And like I say, this really is a foundation of good self-care. So a habit is something that you do most of the time. Not necessarily all the time, but it's what you do most of the time. It's your usual thing. That's what a habit is. Good or bad habit, that's what a habit is. And all our real self-care is embedded in our habits. Self-care is not going to a spa or splurging down on the shops or even having a bath. It's about the good, nourishing things you do for yourself every day. Yes, this might be the boring stuff. This might be the boring stuff like exercising, like eating well, like sleeping, having a good sleep routine, like meditating, all those things that are good for the mind and the body and the soul. And yet these things take time to build. Habits do take a long time to bed in, but we're all capable of building habits. We're all capable of building good habits. I guarantee there's at least one good habit that almost every single person in the world has, and that's brushing your teeth. We all do it, almost without fail. Every morning, every night. So sometimes you can kind of build habits onto existing ones. So if you're very good at brushing your teeth, then add a little bit of extra to your brushing your teeth routine. Plans are a bit more long term, and plans are a bit more changeable, so they're not necessarily what you do every day. Now the key with planning is to know what your plans are. I'm not very good at planning. I find planning really scary. I find it really scary having it written down. Say, this is what I'm going to do. Because it makes it really real and tangible. But it means that I get it done. Once things are written down, I think, right, okay, I've got a plan. Let's put our plan into action. And this is why finding your focus in this way is so important to us being satisfied, living this satisfied life. Because to live a satisfied life, we have to live with some purpose. Living with some purpose means sometimes wanting to achieve things. And if we don't achieve things, then we don't feel like we're fulfilling ourselves. And it's much easier for us to achieve things if we've got good structures in place. So, that's part of our 3 benefits of having good routines in place. Actually saves us time, makes us more productive. Do you ever get times when you sit there and think, what should I do now? You're like, oh, I could do this and I could do that and maybe I could do this. What do I feel like doing? What needs doing? What's the priority? And before you know it, half an hour's gone and you've not done anything. If you've got planned in, or you've got a set routine to say, well, it's 5 o'clock on a Monday. This is the time I go running. And then you go running. There's no debate. There's no procrastination. There's no arguing here. This is the time you go for a run. Or this is the time that you go to sleep. This is the time when you eat. This is the time when you've blocked out 2 hours to work on your business. Or you've blocked out 2 hours to do some personal development work. Or this is the time when you meditate. When you've got it all blocked out, there's no argument. And that means you save lots of time and you actually get the stuff done that way. This in turn, benefit number 2, relieves stress. When you know where you are, when you know what has to be done, and you know when you're going to do it, this, before you've even done it, you'll start to feel a little bit of an easing of your stress. If you're at that point where you kind of like, I've got so much to do, I don't know what to do, I don't know what order to do things in. Doing some planning so you can slot it in makes a world of difference, rather than just trying to go for it. Because then if you don't plan enough, you have a tendency to do the things that you like doing rather than the things that are necessarily most important to do. Are less likely to eat the frog. Eat the frog is doing the worst thing first. So it really helps with stress. And benefit number 3 is that when you've planned in, when you're doing your tasks or your work or whatever things you need to do, you can also plan in when you're going to have fun. You can plan in your chill out time. You can plan in nothing. And then you can not feel guilty about that. If you've got 2 hours allocated to going out for a meal with some friends, you no longer have to spend the whole time in that meal thinking, I really should do this and I've got to do that when I get home, and this is when am I going to do that? Because you've allocated this time to have fun. You've allocated this time to not think about those things. And you've allocated time to do those things later. Or maybe you've already done them. So it helps us to have real guilt-free pleasure, because you can schedule it in. So here's 3 tips on building some good routines. Well, tip number 1 is to have an ideal week. What's this? This is just plotting out what it would look like if you had a perfect week. So I do this in Excel because I like Excel, but you can do it by hand. You could do do it in a diary or something like that. So you start off blocking out any of your regular appointments. So this is not what you do week on week. This is what you should be aiming for every week. So you put in your regular appointments, so when you're in work or when the kids are in school, especially when the kids have got after school clubs that you have to take them to. Plot all these in. When your yoga classes, when your spin classes, whatever it is. Put those in first. Then look at the rest of your time and think, well, what routines do I really want to do? What would be really good for me? So you might say, I really want to start on having a meditation routine. So when are you going to do that? Put it in. Ideally the same time every day, but obviously life doesn't work like that. You might, so for example, I'm learning Portuguese at the moment because I'm going to Lisbon in a couple of months. I roughly have scheduled in that I do my Portuguese lesson at 9 o'clock at night. But on a Thursday, I'm teaching at 9 o'clock. So I can't do it then. So instead, because I've got my ideal week mapped out, my Portuguese lesson goes at 9:30 when I finish my teaching. So it enables you to be a little bit more flexible, but still make sure you're doing the things every day that you need to do. Put in your bedtime and then work out how long you need to get yourself ready for sleep. Having a good sleep routine is really fundamental to self-care. So how long do you want to shower? Do you want to meditate? Do you want to read? What time do you need to switch off your phone so that you start to get into a good mode for sleep? Plot all this in. And then see what other space you've got. And now put in your fun. Put in your work tasks, put in your housework, whatever it is that you need to do every week, plot it in. Leave yourself some white space, because life happens and sometimes some things might overrun. Sometimes you just need some downtime, you need some nice white space. So that's number 1. Plan out your ideal week. And number 2, give it a bit of time to bed in. But if it's really not working, change it. So I would say after a month, perhaps, if you have never gone out running at 7 a.m. when you've scheduled to go out for a run, then clearly you don't want to be going for a run at 7 a.m. or that time is just not working for you. So change it. Don't keep saying to yourself every day, I haven't done it, I haven't done it, I haven't done it. Because you start to build up the habit of ignoring the reminder in your phone or knowing that you should be doing it but you aren't doing it. And that's not a good habit to get into. So remember, a habit is something we do the majority of the time. If you're not doing it the majority of the time, then there's obviously something wrong with your plan. So switch it up. And that kind of leads on to tip number 3. Don't beat yourself up if you don't keep doing it all the time. If you miss a day, you miss a day. It's okay. Get back on it tomorrow. If you miss 3 or 4 days, then you might want to start giving yourself a little bit of a boot up the backside. But keep yourself accountable. You know, I print out a little sheet that I put a ticker across in every day. And if at the end of a month I've hit about 70% of that, I feel pretty good about that. It's okay. I don't need to beat myself up to do it every day. And these things take time, like I say. Eventually, the routine becomes completely second nature. This is about rewriting your brain. So that automatically when you get up in the morning, the first thing you do is go and meditate. Or the first thing you do is a bit of yoga, rather than reaching for your phone, for example. This can take time for those things to become automatic. It does take time for these things to become automatic. So here you go. 3 tips on building good routine. 1, have an ideal week. And I meant to say with the ideal week, if you work on shifts, so you don't have a set week, you can always either have ideal days for each of your shift patterns, or you could do it over whatever your shift span is. So if it's a 3-week rota, do it based on that. So have an ideal week. Give it a bit of time to bed in, but if it's not working, change it up. And don't beat yourself up if you don't stick with it. I hope that's really useful to you. If it is, share it around. And you can join me on Facebook every week for the Sunday satisfaction session. Or there'll be a new one put up here on YouTube probably next Monday. Have a wonderful week. And I'll see you later.